Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. It is Wednesday, the 25th day of February. This is CTV News. Tonight, a budget backlash, harsh reaction to widespread cuts in Nova Scotia. Vacationers make it home from Mexico with stories to tell. And the coldest night of the year, Maritimers prepare to walk the walk for the region's homeless.
Live from our Maritime's News Center, this is CTV News. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. Reaction to Nova Scotia's budget has been swift and increasingly vocal. Protesters today gathering outside Province House, sounding the alarm about cuts to programs and services. CTV's Jesse Thomas kicks off our coverage tonight.
Dozens of protesters lined the snow-covered street outside the Nova Scotia legislature to protest the more than 900 job cuts and slashing of $130 million in social spending by the PC government. Many of the cuts were felt in the community's culture and tourism sector.
And we were called to a meeting, and we were just told that our jobs were gone immediately. We had to gather our stuff, get right out of the airport. Inside the legislature, Houston was grilled on the rationale for the cuts.
I didn't run for office to cut things and take things away.
Yesterday, the province released a list of those impacted by the $130 million in social spending cuts.
We're trying to focus the efficiencies, the cuts, the change, whatever you want to call them, on administration and management to protect frontline services, to protect healthcare, to protect education, to protect
Scotia. We've had reviews in the past that saw value in keeping these programs.
As the Houston government looks to bring some balance back to the shaky fiscal situation, the cuts to government spending will continue over the next 4 years as government plans to cut $623 million in spending from next year's budget. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
Education was also targeted in Nova Scotia's budget on Monday.
Anytime you're making cuts like this, it's tough.
Tens of millions are being held back, including funds for early childhood education, right up to university scholarships and arts programs. Even supports for African Nova Scotia programming is being impacted.
I feel very hurt that this is happening during African Heritage Month. I feel it very deeply. I'm sure other community folks do as well. When it comes to our African Nova Scotian and African Canadian community, we still have a whole host of supports in the department to the tune of $4.5 million.
Canadian Federation of Students says it will hold a strike vote in the days ahead. If there is enough support, they are pledging a province-wide university strike the week of March the 15th. And Nova Scotia museums are another target in this latest budget, with a number of grants being cut or eliminated entirely.
I see a lot of happy memories.
There's concern closures will hurt tourism and, in the end, the very fabric of rural communities. In all, 12 rural museums will shutter, including the Perkins House Museum in Liverpool.
I don't think it's fair that rural communities are having to sacrifice their culture and their economy and their tourism for a budget that was not balanced.
What we're seeing right now is a government that is increasing the debt at an extreme pace. If you want to keep these museums open, you have to deal with the debt problem, because the debt interest that is rising to $1 billion this year is crowding out the ability to fund other programs.
Province says closing 12 of its 28 museums will save nearly $1 million a year, and visitation at those facilities was low, sometimes less than 1,000 all season. Officials insist they will work with communities to explore options for those buildings. And Nova Scotia is ramping up its efforts to shut down cannabis outlets that are not run by the province. New legislation was introduced today targeting landlords and even advertising of those products. The Justice Minister, Scott Armstrong, today introduced the changes to the Cannabis Control Act, including authorizing more provincial officers to enforce the law. Fines are increasing from $5,000 to $25,000 for landlords who rent space to non-provincial cannabis stores. And the province also intends to go after shops with signage promoting the products. Minister says the crackdown is all about public safety.
So we're not just talking about large illegal dispensaries here. We're talking about a fine system where law enforcement will be able to shut down illegal dispensaries, but also local drug dealers as well.
Cannabis sales at the NSLC last year topped $127 million, which brought in about $19 million in tax revenue. The crackdown, which started last year, has been a sore point with First Nations operators who argue they are exempt. New Brunswickers will find out in a couple of weeks how the government there plans to tackle its billion-dollar deficit. The Holt government is asking citizens for suggestions, but whether any of those suggestions will actually be taken is a whole other matter. Here's CTV's Laura Brown.
More than 7,300 New Brunswickers voiced their opinions during the province's pre-budget consultations, and at least some of them came from the heritage sector. This museum director says the Save Our Museums campaign will continue even after Budget Day. News that Nova Scotia will be closing several museums doesn't sit well.
We all feel a little insulted. A Canadian Museum Association, that they've picked up on the story and are deeply concerned. The National Trust has been in touch with us about concerns that they've got about what's happening here in our province.
Some community schools with fewer than 100 students have been concerned too, but Holt told reporters those schools need to undergo a review every few years. It doesn't necessarily mean they'll be closed, but their focus shouldn't only be on cuts, says this author and expert on Canadian governance.
And I think the days of easy transfer payments from Ottawa will be slowing down. Why? Because Ottawa has its own fiscal problem. And secondly, the richer provinces are starting to ask questions. Why do we transfer payments to provinces that say no to economic growth while we have to say yes?
New Brunswick's budget will be tabled March 17th. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
And New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt will join Prime Minister Mark Carney and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe on a trade mission to India this week. Holt says part of the focus will be on expanding trade and investment, supporting talent and education partnerships, and reinforcing long-term economic ties between New Brunswick and India. Premier says she'll highlight New Brunswick's strengths in technology, advanced manufacturing, forestry, and education in her meetings with business leaders and government officials in India.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
After weeks of testimony, the prosecution and defense today presented their closing arguments to the jury in the Jansen Baker double murder trial. Baker has pleaded not guilty to the shooting deaths of Bernard and Rosemary Saunier in their home in Dieppe in 2019. In closing statements, his defense lawyer told the jury his client was incapable of that kind of violence, and the Crown did not have the forensic evidence to even prove Baker was in the house. He also reminded them the case was real life and not a TV show. Prosecutor wrapped up by saying there was no doubt Baker was the killer and asked jurors to imagine how terrifying it must have been for the elderly Sauniers to see him in their house that night. Deliberations will begin after jury instructions, which are expected tomorrow morning. Nova Scotia man is facing mischief charges for allegedly shouting hate-motivated comments at a young referee during a recent hockey game. Police say it happened at the Eastern Shore Community Centre in Musquodoboit Harbour back on the 6th of February. 39-year-old from East Chesapeake was arrested late yesterday and released with an upcoming court date. Police have not revealed the nature of those comments. An unusual legal maneuver in the case of the missing Sullivan siblings tonight. Their grandmother is going to court in hopes of being granted legal guardianship of the missing children. CTV's Hafsa Arif spoke with Belinda Gray today.
I'm anxious for spring. I'm anxious for more searches.
Gray is the grandmother of 6-year-old Lily and Jack Sullivan, who would now be 5. They were reported missing May 2nd. She's seeking guardianship and has launched a campaign to cover court costs.
If things don't go the way we're hoping, I want to be the voice and the person that lays them to rest with love.
She says the guardianship will also allow her to access documents she currently cannot, including reports from Child Protective Services and records from the children's school. Police say this remains a missing persons investigation and continue to follow up on tips, but aren't releasing further details.
I don't doubt the RCMP are doing all they can, but until they get a break, they're not going to be able to do anything.
Meanwhile, the children's stepfather, Daniel Martel, faces unrelated charges. He's due back in court on March 2nd. As for the months ahead, it won't be easy for Gray. She plans on returning to the search for Lily and Jack. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Halifax.
St. John libraries are seeking more funding, but not for books or programming. It's for security. The branches say they've experienced an increase in violence. In fact, reports say one location was even closed for a while. The board says it needs more cash for security.
They can range from verbal abuse to not necessarily violent behavior, but behavior that would be against some of our policies at the library.
When you get people screaming and hollering and acting up in the washrooms, it becomes not a free public library.
Lowe notes the province manages libraries, but the matter has been referred to the city's CAO, who will further investigate. The decades-long fight over what to do with the New Brunswick exhibition grounds in Fredericton could still reach a mutual agreement. That's according to both sides in the battle. In the meantime, City Hall and NBEX officials made their arguments to the province's expropriation officer in a hearing last week. The city says the land is badly needed for a new school and housing. The exhibition argues the land was originally gifted to the city with the condition it be used for agricultural purposes. A proposal sent from the X to the city was rejected just before that hearing got underway. All right, still to come tonight, Kaylin's full forecast, and we'll examine the struggle faced by younger generations who are being told to save for retirement one day, but can barely pay the bills right now. Coming up next, though, travel troubles.
The cost of the hotel room for me tonight will be $400 US plus.
Some Maritimers have returned from Mexico, others still waiting. Details are next. Stay with us. Flights are now moving to and from Mexico again, bringing Maritimers home after that unexpected violence on the weekend. Others are still trying to get back, though, and some can't decide whether they should go. Here's CTV's Vanessa Wright.
Aaron Murnahan is happy to be back on Canadian soil. That's after a scary end to his trip to Puerto Vallarta.
The first 3 quarters of the trip went perfectly to plan. You know, it was a very peaceful town. There was a lot of tourists around. There was a lot of lively activity. We went out on the town Saturday night, stayed out quite late, and when we woke up the next morning, it was to the sound of gunshots and cars exploding.
His original flight back to Halifax this morning wasn't affected, but others haven't been so lucky.
The cost of the hotel room for me tonight will be $400 US plus. And the option is to try to go and find a cheaper place and go out there, and I don't know what's safe and where it's safe.
She says WestJet canceled their returning flight, telling her to stand by for the next one. That was 3 days ago.
Every person I talk to gives me a different story. There's no cohesiveness to this. There's obviously no plan.
CTV News reached out to WestJet about the Connerty situation, and following that conversation late today, the family was booked on a flight back home tomorrow night. Travel agent Miranda Miller says Mexico will always be popular with Maritimers.
It is nice to be seeing, though, that the tour operators did allow some flexibility in rebooking and reprotection, and now that things are starting to quiet down in Mexico, everybody is getting on their way home or will soon be home and then getting ready for their next travel plans.
Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Halifax.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. We'll take a quick little break right here, but when we come back, it's your complete maritime weather forecast. A little bit more snow around here this evening. Kaylin Mitchell's got the latest next. Wednesday night, 25th day of February today, just really a couple days left in this month. And it's we're keeping up the pattern anyway. Keep the snow coming, I guess.
Yeah, but thankfully the snow coming through tonight is much, much lighter than what we started off the week with. The weather system responsible, a much, much weaker weather system, a low pressure system making its way out of the northeastern United States. So in most of the snow, and it's mostly at this point around eastern parts of the Maritimes as it clears through. In a lot of cases, the snowfall amounts are going to be limited to around 1 to 5 centimeters. Now, we do still have some flurries in the forecast for Thursday. Early Thursday morning, flurries will be fairly widespread in the province of New Brunswick, and there'll be a chance of flurries in the southwest of Nova Scotia, maybe mixed with some rain showers for coastal areas. And then as we move into Thursday afternoon, it's cloudy with sunny breaks, a blustery wind, and the flurries, what's left of them, more widely scattered around the Maritimes, down to around a 30 or 40% chance. A few of those flurries may linger into Thursday evening and Thursday night, but there should be clearing overnight into Friday morning, and Friday's looking like a sunnier day for most of the Maritimes. Now, winds in the forecast for tonight and tomorrow, they change direction. They become westerly for Thursday afternoon, and they're going to be on the blustery side with some peak gusts up between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour. Low temperatures tonight around many parts of the Maritimes fall into a range of around 0 to -4, though colder in parts of central and northern New Brunswick. They're falling between -5 and -11. Here's a look at the high temperatures in the forecast for tomorrow. In the northwest of New Brunswick, right around the freezing mark. In the northeast, though, few communities could get onto the plus side of the scale, including 2 degrees at Bathurst and 4 at Miramichi. It's 3 in the forecast for Fredericton for tomorrow. Same thing goes for Campobello, and 4 at Grand Manan. 2 at St. John, and then 3 degrees for Moncton. For Prince Edward Island in the forecast for Thursday, we're looking at high temperatures near 3 degrees for Summerside, Cavendish, and Charlottetown, closer to 4 for St. Peter's Bay and Montague, and then 2 at Surrey. Cape Breton tomorrow with a high temperature near 5 degrees for Sydney, near 6 for Bedeque, and 3 at Port Hawkesbury. High temperatures near 5 degrees for Tatamagouche, New Glasgow, and Antigonish on the north shore of Nova Scotia. And on the eastern shore, close to 3 degrees for Ecum-Secum, but closer to 4 for Sheet Harbour, and then 5 degrees for Musquodoboit Harbour, as well as the city centres, Halifax and Dartmouth. 4 for Truro and 4 for Amherst. The Annapolis Valley tomorrow with high temperatures near 4 degrees. And for the communities on the south shore of Nova Scotia, most of the high temperatures between 4 and 6. So fairly mild for the end of February tomorrow in the Maritimes. Now, on Friday for New Brunswick, it's a mostly sunny day, a little bit chillier. Daytime high temperatures, a few degrees below the freezing mark. And then on Saturday, it's a mix of sun and cloud with flurries in the forecast for Sunday. Then we have a little shot of colder air arriving Sunday night into Monday. So heading into the first part of March there, temperatures do get cold for the start of that month, at least compared to averages. Sunshine in the forecast for Tuesday, and then snow possible on Wednesday of next week. For Nova Scotia, it's a mix of sun and cloud for both Friday as well as Saturday. Flurries in the forecast for Sunday, and then colder temperatures for the start of next week. And for Tuesday, a mixture of snow and rain possible on Wednesday. For Prince Edward Island in the forecast coming up on Friday, it's looking like it's going to be a mostly sunny day, a mix of sun and cloud for Saturday. Some flurries expected on Sunday, and that's followed by some colder temperatures Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday of next week. Then a mixture of snow and rain possible on Wednesday, Bruce.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Stay with us. We'll step aside for a couple of minutes, but be right back.
The #1 morning show in Halifax. Turk, Megan, and Amateur Alex. And home to the biggest artists. Halifax's #1 hit music station. 101.3 Virgin Radio.
You know, a lot of millennials feel financially squeezed these days, torn between making ends meet and saving for the future like we've all been encouraged to do. As CTV's Stephanie Seacos tells us tonight, while retirement may be decades away for this particular group, experts warn the clock is always ticking on retiring with enough money in the bank.
Rent, yes, it's very expensive, but I also chose to move out. I was living with my parents.
While at 22, Mala Pinto is a Gen Z, she still has similar worries to those a little older than her when it comes to finances.
Sometimes, yes, I do feel concerned, but then I have to remind myself that to not compare too much to what you see on the internet.
The 2026 RBC Financial Independence poll zeroed in on millennials this year. According to the poll, 65% are worried about saving for the future while paying today's bills. 59% don't feel financially secure and have little to no money left over at the end of the month. 45% have dipped into their savings to stay afloat, and 40% are concerned they'll never pay off debts.
Millennials do face genuine combination of structural economic challenges, as well as, quite frankly, bad luck and some timing factors that distinguish their financial position from prior generations.
The poll found in the past 12 months, only 22% of millennials used a professional for financial advice. Stephanie Seco, CTV News, Halifax.
Okay, time for one last break tonight. Coming up, walking the walk to support our region's homeless on the coldest night of the year. First, though, it is your wake-up weather. Here's a live look at snowy Charlottetown on this Wednesday night, just about Thursday morning. Kaylin Mitchell will tell you how to dress for it when we come back. Just like that, Thursday morning upon us. Let's kick it off with a look at the wake-up weather and Kaylin Mitchell.
Yeah, cloudier start to the day tomorrow for the Maritimes. Flurries for the province of New Brunswick and a chance of flurries or light rain showers in the southwest of Nova Scotia. Most morning temperatures are going to be around or a few degrees below zero. A little bit colder than that through northern areas of New Brunswick. The afternoon should see some sunny breaks, but with a blustery west wind. The wind will be noticeable for tomorrow. Some of the gusts 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. The temperatures, though, on the milder side for the end of February. Most of the highs around the low to mid-single digits. Bruce.
Well, take milder. Thank you, Kaylin. Well, the annual coldest night of the year walk in support of the Maritime's homeless is coming up this weekend. And as CTV's Ryan McDonald shows us tonight, Souls Harbor Rescue Mission has seen a lot of need in Cape Breton since it expanded there 2 winters ago.
For us, it's basically about identifying the fact that a lot of the people that we do serve do spend a lot of time outside.
The annual Coldest Night of the Year walk to raise funds and awareness for the homeless takes place on Saturday. Here in Cape Breton, they say the issue has only become more apparent in the 2 years since Souls Harbor expanded to the island with locations in Sydney Mines and New Waterford.
People coming in looking for tents and sleeping bags and outdoor clothing and winter boots. Obviously, that need has grown exponentially over the last couple of years.
Across the Maritimes, nearly 3,500 people took part in walks last year. One of the biggest gatherings was in Fredericton, where about $145,000 was raised. The money raised also goes toward programs like Hope House here in Cape Breton, where the Recovery Centre's farm facilitator is also the event coordinator for the island's Coldest Night of the Year event.
Because it's important to me to raise funds and awareness for the homeless, hungry, and hurting in Cape Breton, and it makes a big difference.
Organizers say the 3 Nova Scotia events in Sydney, Halifax, and Bridgewater typically bring in around $100,000 total. The Cape Breton event is well on its way to its $40,000 goal. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
Thank you, Ryan. That is your late news for tonight. If you joined us late or you'd like to take a closer look at anything you've seen and a whole lot more, ctvnewsatlantic.ca is always your home for news. I'm Bruce Frisco. Thank you for staying up late with us tonight. Have a good evening. We sure hope to see you again tomorrow.